Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Jamie Dawn Show. I am your hostess, the mostest, Jamie Dawn, the nomad crab who loves to journey about the cosmos and bring back messages and information that hopefully will be useful to you in our everyday lives. So welcome, welcome. If it's your first time listening, I am live. Today happens to be Monday, August 19th, 2024. And guess what? It is a full moon day, as a matter of fact. I was just pointing this out to Jay, my wonderful producer. Thank you, Jay. That the full moon is going to be exact during the show at 11:25:26 minutes into the show. So very exciting. I'm sure many of you listening, if you're listening live, then you're feeling this buildup of energy. If you're listening to an archive, then you may be able to relate to a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today. And maybe you've been listening to some of the other previous great shows that are here before mine, and hopefully stay tuned for the ones after. But as you guys may be aware, that you can go to 12radio.com and you'll see on the page there is, I'm pointing out a couple of things. If you're new, there's a chat button that you can go into the chat room and correspond with myself and interact with others and other hosts during their shows. And Jay is our producer. We keep this not necessarily as a guarded kind of thing, but he is the gatekeeper because, you know, we want to make sure that what we share in here is sacred and safe and confidential, and you guys have a chance to feel really safe. So that's why we have a gatekeeper here to let you in. But just, you know, be kind. Tell him, wave your hand and say, hey, I'd like to come in and chat, and he'll let you in. And we so appreciate the support and the love. So share these shows, share this station with your friends and family, and, you know, have a little popcorn party or whatever as you're listening to your favorite host, and maybe you discover somebody new. And also, since it is a full moon day, most of our hosts are 1-2 Listen advisors like myself, where you can schedule or call and chat one-on-one with us, and we offer our intuitive and astrological and healing and all kinds of great services that are available to you. And since today is a full moon, we are having a special right now at 1-2 Listen, so our rates are reduced. And what else? There's another announcement possibly that I didn't write it down. I'm going off my mental sticky note list here. And yeah, so here we go. And I'd like to start the show to ground us, because what we're going to work with today, hopefully, like I say, will be useful for you. I'm going to talk all kinds of information, and when we're having this information dump, if you will, if we're not grounded, then it either doesn't land or it just, you know, can create all kinds of confusion. And I'm blaming Mercury. We're in the middle of a Mercury retrograde, so confusion is a very real thing. It's a struggle, people. It's a struggle, I'm telling you. I have stories, many, many stories to share. But before we do, we're just going to take a moment to breathe and ground and gather all of our energy right into this single moment. And with one breath, in through the heart and down through the feet, feeling Mother Earth reach up and embrace us with her gravity. And we are here. We're connected. And from here, we get to play for the next 55 minutes or so, 50 minutes with me. And I'm just so excited that I get to be here with you. You know, I have, for those of you who know me, you know, I'm a Cancer sun with a Capricorn rising and Libra moon. My Libra moon sat here debating over the last 24 hours. I'm like, do I go live? Do I do a pre-record? What do I do? And I say that because Libra energy can go back and forth and see all kinds of reasons to not do it. Maybe it can be very non-committal. Plus, we've got Jupiter in Gemini right now, and Gemini wants to float, and have all kinds of things and nothing really to focus on. But I decided, yeah, I'm going to capitalize on this Jupiter and Gemini squaring off with Saturn and Pisces right now, and into the next couple of days, where I get to connect with you. And I want to talk, and I want to share. So, yeah, I want to honor since we've got about 20 minutes before the full moon is exact and then it starts releasing itself, I want to be able to honor you guys during this time. And if you're listening to a replay or archive, then you can still go back and do it, this exercise with me if you would like. It's not going to hurt anything. But if you have already written down maybe the things you want to release, or you need a moment to write them down, that's fine. Or even if you don't want to write them down, this is a perfect time because this is an air sign. Aquarius is an air sign, full moon, that we do airy mental things to honor the releasing during this time. And so it's encouraged to talk, to write, to sing, to share, because remember that our words create worlds. So as we're releasing our words out into the cosmos, out into our rooms, our whatever it is, we're making an offering and we're saying, this is now the universe, or I've already created my universe. Remember, we are the center of our universe, right? And I've created this world for myself that I'm experiencing. Well, there's some things as I look around this world that I've created that may not serve anymore. So it's time for me to let it go. And in letting it go, I create the space. You wrote a beautiful blog on empathy, and the last few days. If you're not sure yet about fears and insecurities about ... right? Or I'm going to release this extra weight that I put on, or I'm going to release, I don't know, the beef, right? ... So you guys play with it, see what shows up. But before we make a strong statement like that, have we asked the right questions? Because that's the other thing. Sometimes we don't know what we really need to release until we understand either why or what will it do for me? What is that real question? What do I need? Maybe maybe instead of saying a statement, it's what do I need to release in order to fulfill XYZ, right? So for just a moment, let's take some time. I'm going to pause, and I'm going to say mine out loud to myself, and you guys say yours out loud to yourself. What is it at this full moon, this very potent full moon, because we've got a square. Uranus is the ruler of this full moon because it's the ruler of Aquarius, and it's squaring off with the sun in Leo and the moon in Aquarius right now. These squares create tensions. So remember that as you are releasing and letting go, there may be some tension points where it's like, do I really want to let it go? Because if I do, what happens then? My whole life will change. Yeah, well, we know the definition of insanity, right? So this is a perfect time, especially to think out of the box and to do this in a way that maybe we're rebelling against our own conditioned tendencies. That's, to me, the definition of karma, these patterns. Maybe we're releasing and letting go of a particular pattern in our life that just doesn't serve us anymore. So here we go. We've got 15 minutes before the exactitude. I'm not going to take all 15 minutes to pause and all that, but please take a moment, take a breath, and write down whatever it is that you are releasing at this full moon in Aquarius. And I'm not going to have a lot of dead air time, but continue. If you feel you want to continue, mute me, sign off, whatever, so that you can continue this good work. And the reason I say I call it good work is because what we release, Mother Earth can transform. She's the most beautiful change agent. It's compost, and that compost, just like with I think about like the soil and the worms and all of that, and how this compost is so full of nutrients that help our plants grow, that help give us life, that become our food source. And so everything we're releasing, it's not necessarily this in my world, it's not necessarily an evil that we're releasing, but we're making an offering that says, here, I want to be of greater benefit. Here's something I'm letting go of that can now be transformed to become the compost that can help me grow, that can help my relationships grow, that can help humanity grow. Aquarius is all about the humanitarian, the equalitarian, as I like to say. Wants everything to be beneficial for everyone. And it's such a beautiful opportunity for us right now to do that. As I talk about the various themes that I mentioned in my Celestial Wisdom video, if you haven't checked it out, it's on YouTube. Thank you for those of you who do listen and subscribe and like and share. But I'm going to take us through some of those today, just as a reminder. But as I was listening really deeply to what was being asked for this show, what I heard loud and clear was not only this full moon energy and going through that moment with you and the exercise of releasing and letting it go, but in particular, it's about deepening the integration of the shadow, or the parts of us that we consider to be wrong or darker or unknown or even weaker. We demonize them, we push them away, or we act like a drill sergeant and we try and use willpower. That's me. I'm the willpower person, discipline, I got Saturn sitting right next to my sun, so yeah, makes things very serious. But instead of being that wrestle it down, try and control it and or push it away or whatever, we're looking at integrating. And that's what I meant by the compost, We're releasing things out that no longer serve us, and at the same time, we're integrating the shadow side. There's a couple of books that I gravitate to, and some I will say this, I have books that I read just for fun, like novels and things like that. My daughter put me on to a series, and I'm on the 4th out of 5 books right now, and it's all about wizards and sorcerers and dragon and what else? Enchanters. Yeah. Anyways, it's a lot of fun. It's very light reading, but I'm also reading books like Robert Schwartz, called No Bad Parts, and Pema Chodra's. I'm rereading her book, When Things Fall Apart. And so those 2 books in particular have reminded me about integration of the shadow. And I want to share that with you right now, because in Robert Schwartz's book, No Bad Parts, he postures that every aspect of us is valid in order to return to wholeness. And he's using it from a psychological perspective because he works with the IFS, or internal family system, which is a method about integrating all the internal systems inside of ourselves as like family members, And he's basically saying that in summary, that instead of demonizing or cursing these negative parts of us, that they all play a role that we can work with, and that instead of demonizing them or making them evil, that it does help us to return to wholeness, which is what we're all about. Those of you who are familiar with astrology, it's another tool that lends itself to find that wholeness. When we're looking at charts, when we're talking about untenanted houses, or we're talking about emphasis in certain planets and signs and all that, these are all pieces and parts that all play a part in our lives, because that's we came from wholeness. And when there's this belief out there that as we descended or incarnated into this human form, that we've separated ourselves from wholeness. When in essence, we're still whole and complete as we are. We're just unique expressions of that wholeness. And I know most of you listening probably take on that belief. But if you notice that our mindset and our belief system, in the way in which we behave and the way in which we take external validations or criticisms or whatnot, it causes us to doubt that wholeness, or to not act accordingly. Pema Chodra, as I mentioned, she postures in her book, When Things Fall Apart, to breathe in the poison. She calls it the poison, or the darker parts, or the pain and suffering of others, of ourselves, as an antidote for healing and greater self-awareness. One of the excerpts that I really appreciate, she wrote about, was that we're told from childhood that something is wrong with us and with the world and with everything that comes along. It's not perfect. It has rough edges. It has a bitter taste. It's too loud. It's too soft. It's too sharp. It's too wishy-washy. And we cultivate a sense of trying to make things better because something is bad. Something is a mistake. Something is a problem. And the main point of these methods is to dissolve the dualistic struggle or habitual tendency to struggle against what is happening to us or in us. That's what she's trying to offer through her Buddhist lens in the practices. One of them, which I love so much, Tonlin, many of you are familiar with that, where we breathe in this pain and suffering through the heart, that diamond vajra, that beautiful, uncut, powerful, strongest element mineral in the world. As far as I know, I don't think there's been anything else discovered otherwise. And so I often see my heart like that diamond. And that as I breathe in that poison and I exhale the antidote, I exhale relief and kindness and love and gentleness and all of that. And it's an invitation that allows us to stand up in the middle of the fire and not get burned, to remind ourselves that we can welcome the pain when it arrives instead of creating suffering by pushing or running away from it. Tatiana and my daughter and I were talking the other day about pain and how, because as many of you know, she is the therapist, and so she sits with a lot of people in a lot of pain, and reminding ourselves, and she's had her own struggles with different relationships in her life, in particular her own father, and the pain and suffering. How we as human beings often run from pain, or we're so afraid of it, but it is part of life. We can't stop it, you know? But what we can do is we can use our tools and our practices. Every time pain shows up, it becomes that beautiful teacher that says, okay, what tool do you want to use now? You know, maybe it's the tool of grounding. Maybe it's the tool of breathing and calming that parasympathetic nerve. Maybe it's a tool of practicing impermanence, letting go, practicing surrender. Maybe it's a tool of speaking kind, forgiveness. I mean, there's so many out there that we can all tap into and use. And maybe it's a reminder for some self-care, you know? Can't emphasize that enough. So, it was interesting too. I'll have to get Tatiana back on my show. We keep talking about recording it, but then we end up playing, you know, and doing other things together like we like to do. So, but one of the things I said to her is we're talking about her relationship with her dad. And because she and I are actually, I'll make this little announcement. She and I are actually going back to Virginia to visit my son, her brother, and daughter-in-law, and my grandbaby. And that'll happen for his first birthday at the end of September. So very excited about that. I'll talk about that more. Yeah, he's a Libra. He's born September 25th. And that was last year, of course, 2023. And his name is Samson. I like to call him Handsome Samson. So those of you who don't follow me on social media, you won't know that. But I nicknamed Sammy, and that I was saying, I'm digressing for a second, but I know you guys follow where I lead, right? We got 5 minutes before this full moon's exact. But I like naming people or talking, well, I name my kids and call them, you know, with an E at the end. You know, that sound, or like a Y sound or whatever, where it's like, ee, and that's mostly so that I can sing the rest of their name out. So it's like Sammy, right? It just has a beautiful end of that sentence. So anyways, but Tatiana and I were talking about this relationship and navigating it, and her going back and being around him. And, you know, it's unfortunate, but he and I do not have any form of contact, and we haven't since we divorced years and years ago. And I said to her, I said, well, you know that phrase, hurting people hurt people. And she said, yeah, but that phrase can be an excuse. And I said, what do you mean? Go deeper on that one. She said, well, I've been hurt, but I choose not to hurt others. because I've been hurt and I know what it feels like. I was like, amen, sister. Preach it, girl. I loved it. Loved it. So, again, that phrase, hurting people hurt people, is not an excuse. But when we're in pain, we often project and we often do turn around and hurt people. And that's where great compassion and great forgiveness comes in, not to excuse the bad behavior, but to be able to go, okay, I have compassion here. I see you are hurting, or maybe I see myself, I'm hurting. And how can I approach this in a loving place? Not in a, when I say loving, I don't mean soupy, romantic kind of love. A loving place that says, I understand you're in pain, so I'm not going to project I'm not going to create harm to you because you are projecting pain onto me. But what I will do is I will stand up for what I believe is right and how you treat me. And that's where healthy boundaries come in. So I can't tell you enough how much I'm watching the clock and going, okay, we're almost exact. It's a nice distraction. Something else that I'll invite us into, we talk about a practice, is that starting now if you want, or maybe you decide you want to start tomorrow or whatever, pick a day, time, but practicing thank you first to everything that shows up. So your first response to everything is thank you. I was laughing, I was telling Jay this just before we started. I liked sharing the Mercury retrograde stories. It's a real thing, people. I'm sorry. I can blame the planet all I want, because why not? At the same time, I'm witnessing. So here's the thing. My partner is, he has a Gemini rising. So that means Mercury rules his chart. This man has had more mercurial mishaps over the last 3 weeks with Mercury in shadow and then retrograde than I can tell you. I mean, like, I can tick off a broken phone cord, the phone not charging, his son needing to sell a car, didn't happen right away. Then they sold it. Then the whole buying of a new car, all the delays and debacles with that. But it's done. And let's see. Oh, and this is something else. So when he sold the car, it was his car that his son was driving, but when he sold the car, the guy shorted him $100, and he swore he counted it 3 times. But the next day, when he went to give his son the profit so he could put it down on the new car, he was short $100. So he had to go to the bank, and he had to get another 100 to give him the right amount, blah, blah, blah. Very mercurial. Okay. My experience, and I'm sure some of you have your own, I know there's been some flight delays and confusions and travel delays, you know. So I have 2 stories. Thank you for bearing with me as we lead into the full moon exact. Okay, so my daughter and I decided to go to this fun little place that I wanted to take her to. I had taken Rosie, my grand dog, her dog, there a few weeks, probably a couple months ago. And Rosie's going to be 10 on Friday. I just have to put that out there, my little Virgo grand dog. And so she's not as sprightly as she used to be. She's a bulldog pug mix. So the bulldog in her is really taking over. And she doesn't move as fast. She used to be very sprightly. She was my hiking partner for so many years when I lived back in Virginia. And so Rosie and Tatiana and I decided to go to a fun little spot up in Tahoe on Friday. Well, because a couple months ago when I took Rosie on this walk, it's a 3-mile walk round trip, but we get to a little, it's called Hidden Beach in Tahoe, and you get there and the dogs can run around and play and get in the water, and you know, it's a very small place, so it gets crowded really fast, and you can only get there if you walk, and you have to park and walk a mile and a half and all that good stuff. But it was a beautiful day, perfect time to go, all that sort of thing. So I told her, I said, I'll pick you up at this time and we'll go. So I picked them up, and there's also a dog-friendly restaurant that's right there that I wanted to try with her. And so I pick her up, and we had a plan, right? Ha ha ha, Mercury retrograde. Make plans all you want so that the gods and goddesses can laugh. And we get in the car, and because it's a good 45-minute to an hour drive from my daughter's place to where we're going. And I mapped it out. I said, well, it says this is the fastest way to go. So off we go. And halfway up the mountain, because you have to go over the mountain to get to Tahoe, halfway up the mountain, we're at a dead stop. And traffic isn't moving in either direction. And we happened to be stopped at a place that there was no signal on either one of our phones. So we didn't know exactly what was going on until we inched up enough, after about an hour of sitting there, inched up enough to get a signal and found out there was a crash. And it closed the highway down completely, both sides. So we sat there and debated for a little bit. I'm like, what do you want to do? I don't care. What do you want to do? I don't know. Whatever. I'm good either way. Blah, blah, blah. You know how people are. Anyways, very non-committal. We couldn't. Finally, after sitting there an hour, maybe an hour and a half, we turned around and we came back down the mountain, and we decided to go another direction. And we decided to stick with, let's go to this place. We'll have lunch first and then go to the beach. So we did. And we had started what would have been an only hour journey to get to exactly where we want to go, turned into a 2.5-hour event. Mercury retrograde. But guess what? Once we got there, we had a great time. It was perfect. Perfect timing for everything. So that was one story. I know you guys can share other stories too. And hopefully you are in the chat room. I'm so bad about this chat room because Facebook is such a debacle when it comes to me being able to look at the comments. So I apologize, but I don't get to be able to multitask and stay on track when I'm live like this. So I need an assistant here, a sidekick to do it for me. Any volunteers? Anyways, so second story, because it's just fun to share these stories, right? Just to say, hey, you're not alone. So I told you my partner's phone has been acting up and all that. Well, last night he says, do you mind handing me my phone? So I take it out of the charger and hand it to him. And apparently when we took it out of the charger broke, the little piece broke off inside his phone. So he pulled that out. And then, of course, we didn't have a charger. So he's like, great, I'm not going to have a phone tomorrow. I said, I'll get you a charger. He goes, where are you going to go for that? I said, don't worry, I'm very resourceful and I'm up early. So anyways, up early, off to Walmart I go. Because they were the only place open that I thought would have chargers, which they do. They're the only place open at 6 in the morning. So I get there and I parked in one spot, go to the door, and it's locked. And there's a gentleman outside, and he goes, that door's locked. We keep it locked because we're trying to prevent thievery. Okay, great, no problem. So get back in the car, drive over to a different location or a different spot, a different door, and then get out and go in. And I go to the electronics, and there's nobody around. I'm like, and everything was behind a locked glass door, right? All the chargers and all that good stuff, at least the ones that I wanted, because I wanted to get one of those wireless ones so we didn't have to deal with cords anymore. Anyways. Nobody's around. I'm waiting. Finally, I catch somebody. Do you have keys? Let me get the manager. So I wait some more. Delay. I'm saying this because it's mercurial, right? I need information. I need to get some stuff. Very mercurial. It's delayed because it's retrograde. I'm equating this, yeah. So anyways, 10 minutes later, finally find somebody else. And she says, I'm sorry, but our manager's not coming in today, and the only other person with keys won't be here for another half an hour. I'm like, I'm not waiting around half an hour. I got things to do. So I told her what the dilemma and the phone. She goes, well, you could try this. I have the same type of phone. I said, okay. So I grabbed that charger, and back to the house I went. Sure enough, it works. Yay, fantastic. But man, I was laughing. I was like, okay, keep your sense of humor, because I was starting to get irritated with the fact that there was nobody else with keys. Really? Okay. Or they didn't put them in a central place that it doesn't matter. I'm not in charge of the store. So it was just one of those things. Anyways, so those are my stories for now. I'm sure I have a few more, of course, that I've heard from other people. Like I say, you can continue. something else that I want to point out, I mentioned this in my Celestial Wisdom video. I like to pull tarot cards so that we can focus on them, something we can meditate on. I'm always curious how these cards may work for you. And so the two that came this time for this week was the Lovers and the Hermit card. And I just find that fascinating. Well, I also pulled the Queen of Wands, but I didn't really go into that because the Queen of Wands was one we meditated on a couple of weeks ago. And so it was all about manifesting our inspirations and our hopes and that sort of thing, and being in charge of it, creative, passionate, right? What are we passionate about? It was very perfect for, because I think it was right around the new moon in Leo. Well, here we are. Now the Lovers shows up, and guess what? Not only is the Lovers all about that soul-honoring connection with a loved one, but, I mean, maybe you feel like you found your soulmate, your life partner, your person, whatever you want to call it. So the Lovers does represent that. And many of you listening may be thinking about either going deeper if you're in a bonded relationship of like, how can I get that spark back? Or I really want to show evidence that we are that bonded, we are that committed. How do we do something special for one another or whatever, right? This is a great energy to manifest and to meditate on, because remember, we just released and let go of the things that maybe weren't serving us. Maybe we're keeping our hearts closed to going deeper with our beloved, because the Lovers card also talks about vulnerability. If you think about it, in the Rider-Waite deck, the Lovers are naked. The man and woman are naked with each other. It takes great vulnerability to be there. But in the Lovers card, they've learned to open their hearts and trust and share their true feelings. And that takes a lot of vulnerability and trust, right? And so it's an invitation as you meditate on this card to focus on what's the container or the energy field that can breed more trust and more confidence. And that creates a more powerful bond. You know, I talk about the pain that comes into our lives, that if you're able to walk through that pain with another person, it bonds you. You know, it's like the brother in arms kind of thing. We just went through some serious shit. Now, you know, nobody else can talk about it the way we do because they didn't experience it the way we did. That's the thing I love so much about Mystery School at Nine Gates, is that we go through all these initiations, both the staff and students, so that we can, and the experiences we have bond us, you know, in a way that nobody else will have the exact same experience that we've had. So there's this bonding and forming that takes place because of that. And the Lovers card is an opportunity for us to focus and meditate on that this week. What kind of experiences am I having this week? Especially as I talk about, you know, Saturn and Jupiter square, and we've had this T-square going on for this full moon. You know, maybe there's been some circumstances out of our control because with Uranus involved, anything goes, right? Maybe there's been some things that show up that we have to face, we have to deal with. And it can bond us to the people that if we stay open, and we can create more trust and vulnerability, we can create that greater bond. The other thing about the Lovers, and this is what I think is in particularly part of what I was talking about earlier about integrating, is that the Lovers card encourages us to unify dual forces. So we can bring together two parts that seem in opposition, full moon, moon and sun standing opposite to one another, and create something that is whole, unified, and harmonious. And that in every choice, there's an equal amount of advantage and disadvantage. And so when we accept these dualities, we build the unity that comes from love, in which love flows, right? And so that's a beautiful and powerful card to focus on, to meditate on, to write about. The other card, the Hermit, and this is where I feel that by the end of the week, maybe when the sun moves into Virgo on Thursday, that we're going to be looking at some retreat, some respite, some solitude. Maybe we need to carve out a little break for ourselves if we're pushing too much. The energy right now is intense because of this full moon and because of the square happening. And so when we're in these tension points, it's asking us to roll up our sleeves, to show our strength and stability, to be able to fight. And not necessarily fight in a negative way, to remember we've got the strength and the courage to face whatever shows up. But guess what? After we've expended all of that energy then we may crash, we may need a moment to crash. And that's what the Hermit card reminds us of, that it shows us that taking a break from everyday life so that we can draw our energy in and find the answers that we seek. They're deep within ourselves. And that's the other invitation, is that we have the answers. So if some things have shown up that have really triggered us, and we start looking for these exterior validations, is this the right relationship? Is this good for me? Is this, whatever? Did I make the right choice or make the right decision? Please tell me, show me the validations of this. Well, after sitting back and drawing our energy back in and asking the right questions, then we can listen deeply and say, what are the answers? What do I know to be true for me? As I remind myself and all of you listening, the intuition lives in the body. What does your body say? Did you make the right choice? Is your body stable? Does it feel alive? Does it sing? Does it, say, yeah, this is it? Or does it feel destabilized? Does it feel nervous? Does it feel like you've been gut punched? Things like that. That usually tells you, maybe that's not the right path to go, But give yourself permission. This coming weekend, I would say, perfect time to go on a little weekend retreat. Maybe there's a pilgrimage. You don't even have to leave your home. You can do it through meditation. You can do it through just taking time out for contemplation. So the Hermit, it continues to invite us into this private inner world, if you will. Oftentimes, too, the Hermit card shows up for those of us who are at a pivotal point, considering new directions. And you think about this, we just release things. So it's like, okay, I let that go. Now what? How's my life going to change if I truly let this go? If I do something different? Well, you got to take one step at a time, and you need some time to plan. You need some time to shine a light on where you're going next. So this is where you want to take some time out. Yeah. Also, the Hermit says this isn't necessarily a time to push away your material possessions or people or things, but to put them aside for a little bit. It's a great time for a digital detox. I know so many people who are like, I'm just social media exhausted. I'm content exhausted right now. So it's like, yeah, set the digital stuff down. Let it go for a while. Don't listen, don't watch, don't scroll, and then just notice. I can tell you that, it's a proven scientific fact, too much screen time, it actually, especially with children, it does stunt their brain development. So imagine what it's doing for us as adults too. It drains us. It can drain our energy because we are not hardwired to vibrate at that level on a constant basis. And so we need to be able to honor the fact that we're in this human physical form, and we need to step back from some of that vibratory nature that comes from screen time and electronics. I can tell you that I do this every single day. I wear I'm an Apple geek. I wear an Apple Watch, and I have a phone, and I have the computer, and I'm very connected. But I do make marked points, especially when I go work out, that I don't answer my phone. Unless there's an emergency, or I don't check my phone, I don't check my email, even texts come through, I ignore it. So please don't take it personally. It's my time to be able to get away from the electronic world, just for a little bit, And I think, and what it does is it does rejuvenate and recharge my energy so that I can show up to be of greater service. So it's a wonderful dance that we do, Something I'm going to just go a little bit deeper on that I mentioned in my Celestial Wisdom and we're experiencing today and into the next couple of days, because it'll take Saturn and Jupiter a little more time than the Sun and Moon, obviously, to pull away from each other, to separate. And so the Saturn-Jupiter square, so think about this. Saturn restrains, okay? It puts boundaries. It has limitations because before the telescope, it's our furthest outer planet that we can see with the naked eye. And so it used to be, in ancient astrology, Saturn was considered the doorway or the gateway to death, because it was an ending. So Saturn puts to endings, but it also manifests, right? And it says, okay, here's the boundaries, here's the structures in place. Now Jupiter comes in before Saturn and says, yeah, but I want to expand everything and I want to make it bigger and better, right? But without if, as you guys know, if we have too much expansion, then we have overindulgence and overwhelm and anything that just becomes bigger than life and all that sort of thing. So Saturn is a beautiful anchor point. And when these two planets are dancing together in this square, it's creating tension for us to be able to say, hold on, Jupiter in Gemini has all these things happening, all these things we want to do. We can't seem to focus on anything. It's like, I want to learn about that. I want to learn about this. And I have all these questions. And oh my God, there's so many people out there that I want to talk to, that I want to connect with, whatever. And Saturn in Pisces says, yes, and here's this tension point. How do we manifest it in a way that creates some, I'll say, imaginal realms, some spiritual things that allow us to create some beauty, that allow us to create from a place of unification. And I say that because Pisces ruled by Neptune, and Pisces is the end of the zodiac sign. This is a sign at the end. And it brings everything that we've experienced from Aries all the way back to Pisces in culmination in this beautiful unification place. Right? So Jupiter's gathering all these things, gather. And Saturn says, hold on, how do we create a place of wholeness with all these things that we are doing? And Saturn in Pisces is beautiful with the Hermit card to be able to say, maybe I need to pull back because there's been too much activity. I'm going to get burnt out. I'm going to get exhausted because I've taken on too much, right? And so there's this evaluation that can be happening right now in our lives, especially with Mercury retrograde, where we do a lot of reevaluation and redos. Have I taken on too much? Have I been the yes girl? Have I been the yes guy? Have I, just overwhelmed myself? I mean, one of the things about overwhelm is it kicks in that freeze mode. We have the fight, flight, or freeze mode. And when we have too much happening and too much going on, we go, oh shit, I can't do all this, so I can't do anything at all. And so Saturn pushes us just a little bit to say, yes, you can. You just have to remove some of the things that are not serving. Pisces loves to be of service in whatever creative and beautiful way possible. So Saturn says, hold on, I'm going to help. And so we have an opportunity this week that after we take some time to retreat, to withdraw, to rejuvenate, recharge, all those wonderful REs, that we can take our ideas and we can put them into action. And the key here, especially with Saturn involved, is that we don't move too fast. That's the gift. We may want something. I think this is the tension point, especially if we're looking at relationship. We want something. We want to be connected to that person or that situation or that group, right? Please, I want this to happen, right? We have our agendas. We have this need or desire inside of us. And Saturn says, hold on. You don't have it yet because there's steps that have to take place. Well, then we get pissed off. We throw a temper tantrum. I'm talking about me. Maybe you do it too. I know I have these moments where I'm just like, I'm taking my toys and going home because I'm not getting what I want. That's my rebellious nature, right? And this full moon certainly kicked that in. I can tell you the narrative in my head over the last 24, 48 hours has been, fuck you, I'm going to go and you lose, I win, right? I'm leaving. And I mean that in every way possible. It's only been a narrative. I'm not acting on it. But I'm listening to that narrative and I'm going, wait a minute, how does that relate to wholeness, right? No, I can stand in the middle of this desire pain that I'm creating and say, let's just play this out. Let's see what serves. If it serves for me to leave that situation, that thing, whatever, then I will. Otherwise, I'm going to stay the course. I'm going to let this energy run, And that's what Saturn and Jupiter are doing. So Jupiter's expanding that narrative in Gemini, right? Talk. Ideas, stories, communicate, right? And Saturn's going, hold on. Is that really true? Saturn and Pisces can put the rose-colored glasses on. or Pisces can, but Saturn comes in as that real reality, that wise father, if you will, that says, hold on, that's not exactly what it is. Not everything is as it appears to be, or not everything is necessarily true. You're creating a lot of this. You've imagined, your imagination is running amok. Maybe you should come back to the reality of things, you know? So these are some of the things that we're going to be playing with. Now, I mentioned the sun moves into Virgo on Thursday, and I love this. I love Virgo. Now, granted, my Cancer sun is sextile to Virgo, and I love it because of the essence of what Virgo brings to us. And the essence is to be of service, not in service, but of service to something greater than ourselves. And oftentimes when I get stuck in my own head and when I get stuck in my own stories that pull me down, it's because I'm not being of service to something greater than myself. I'm stuck in my own little world, my own little narrative that just keeps dragging and looping myself around instead of going, wait a minute, maybe if I create some content, maybe if I open my office hours and are able to help somebody walk through something that they're dealing with, being of service, doing my nonprofit work, whatever it might be, that I can be of service. Suddenly I'm just like, well, I don't even know what I was saying to myself. It doesn't really matter now, does it? But I feel myself lighten. And that's the thing about Virgo energy, is that when we are of service, we can tap into some resources that help us feel lighter, that give us a sense of purpose. Human beings need purpose. And Virgo energy, the shadow side that we learn to integrate, is that criticism or that critic, that self-doubt, the negative talk, all of those sorts of things that come into play. How do we integrate them, right? How do they serve us? Well, because the shadow points to the light. So that criticism can be transformed into discrimination, right? Where I can sit there and say, okay, wait a minute, I have this going on, I have that going on, and maybe what I need most right now is to take a break. Maybe I need to, look at inventory of, as far as like reorganizing, reclutter, or cleaning out some clutter. There is nothing worse for me, anyways, than to see clutter and notice how I feel internally cluttered. So I start clearing out shit. I've reorganized a closet. And I got rid of a couple of things. I donated them last week, and I'll probably continue. Now, some of you may or may not know this. I have a little 4-foot pre-lit Christmas tree. I love Christmas, and I love it because of the lights, not the religious piece of it. And I love to decorate. And Halloween, I can't wait for Halloween to be here. And anyways, I decided, after seeing this at a friend's house, they do a Christmas tree with a theme. They had it for Valentine's Day a year ago. I was like, you know what? Because I love lights so much, and I love to decorate, and I love this sort of, celebrating all these themes, I'm going to keep my tree up year round, and I'm going to do a theme. So right now, maybe I'll take a picture and have my assistant post it on my social media. Right now, it's a football theme. Some of you may or may not know, I'm a huge 49er fan, and my beloved and his father are as well, and so we yell at the TV every weekend now that football season has started. I'm not really a preseason girl, but preseason game girl, but once we kick off into the season, that's where I will be every day, or every time the 49ers play if I can. I'm going to be gone the first game, though, the first season game, because I have mystery school. But anyways, I digress. But my tree is a football tree. And one of the things also about this Virgo energy is that it is very creative. I mean, if any of you have a dominant Virgo energy in your chart, you're probably a highly creative person. Arts and crafts and organizing it and making it look beautiful. If that's not you, find a Virgo friend that will do it for you. My assistant is a Virgo. Happy birthday, Jen. It's not yet, it's in September. But But yeah, she's great at editing my videos and creating, helping me create content and keep me organized. She's reaching out to me every Monday morning. Are you going live today so I can share it on social media? Yes or no? I say everybody should have a Virgo in their life. The other thing that we're going to be doing is looking at our routines and rituals as the sun is moving through Virgo. And keep in mind that Mercury will retrograde back into Leo. Well, it's in Leo right now, but it'll stay in Leo until the 28th when it starts to, well, excuse me, I'm misspeaking. I'll blame Mercury on that one. It is going to station direct on the 28th in Leo at 21 degrees Leo. And then it moves back through the last degrees of Leo into Virgo. So we're going to have a nice Virgo complement. It was where I was going when Mercury enters Virgo and the sun in Virgo. And so we're going to be in this place where we're going to get to focus more on our routines and our rituals and say, okay, what do I need to do to honor and to bring out the better version of me? Because that's the thing about discrimination and criticism, is it really helps to bring out the best in ourselves if we don't beat ourselves up with what we're not doing well, but to look at it and say, okay, maybe I'm not doing certain things well, so I need to develop a stronger sense of XYZ, or maybe I need to set up a routine that supports my goals and my dreams and where I want to go next, or how I can be of greater service. So these are the kind of things that we're going to be looking at when we have this Virgo energy. And as I mentioned, Thursday, Friday into the weekend, that's where, allowing ourselves to pull back, to retreat, to have some time to ask the questions and just see where it takes us, really good things for us to do. One of the other things that I just want to offer as a little pin on the map, I know my time is almost at an end, not quite, is that we would also want to look at where we were back at the new moon in Aquarius, and that was back in February. And the reason I say that is we set intentions at that new moon that we are hopefully manifesting now. So go back in your journal if you wrote it down, or if you did a vision board or whatever it is, just notice for a second, what is manifested? Does it still serve? So celebrate that. Take a moment to celebrate. I often say this to many of my clients, we don't celebrate ourselves enough. We don't take a moment to celebrate an accomplishment that maybe we did or a team did or whatnot. We just go, yay, we finally got there. Okay. And then we focus so much on the problems and the failures instead of the successes. This is a beautiful time this week in particular. Take a moment to celebrate something. There's got to be a win. I start all of my coaching sessions with, let's talk about a win first. Anything you want to share. It could be, I got out of bed today. I don't care. Whatever you think is an accomplishment. Toot your horn. You have the opportunity to do that with me. And it's important because it reinforces the things that we're doing well already. That's where gratitude also offers us, that benefit. So if you're like, oh, I don't know what to celebrate, what can you be grateful for? Even if it's one thing. I'm just grateful I was able to get out of bed today. Grateful I can put my clothes on by myself. We dismiss it. So celebrate for just a moment, honor it. That's where these rituals come in. We honor, something I do every single day is I stand in front of my altar, I light my candle and my incense, and I say my prayer, my invocation. And that invocation says, I'm ready to be of service. So, there's a whole thing I have with my invoking, but I set that intention and I say, I'm here, I'm ready. So have that intention to be of great service and see where it unfolds from there. One other little pin on the map, I know my time is up. Check out on social media, I have your full moon, and I do these for new and full moons by sign and how the moon energy could be affecting you by sign. So look at your sun, moon, and rising sign to get a bigger picture. If you're not sure what that is, we can get free charts, no problem. And of course, come find me at 1-2-Listen. I'm there, and I am so thrilled to be of service to you. I have some scheduled appointments this afternoon, so you won't find me there much today, but I will be there throughout the week. And I really look forward to connecting with you. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Jay, for producing. And thank you for just all your love and support. Continue to support this great station and all things 1-2. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Take care.